This is what I think about Sam Darnold. Patrick Mahomes, but arm strength probably not as high-end as Mahomes. He can do everything Mahomes does athletically. Also from a release standpoint, natural thrower of the football. Very, very instinctual, intuitive mover out there. Tremendous thrower on the move. Sam Darnold is Pat Mahomes with less of an arm. Josh Rosen. What do I first associate with Josh Rosen when I think of his name? And when I think of his game? And his tape that he has accumulated over the course of the past 3 years. Eli Manning. Okay? That's what I see in terms of how he moves, how he sets up in the pocket, the steadiness in which he throws the football, the decision-making prowess, his ability to put touch on the deep ball, etc. So many things to like about Rosen. But from a footwork standpoint, from a creation of space standpoint, Josh Rosen is going to struggle at the NFL level. So I don't think he is a can't-miss prospect. And people say, oh, he's like Matt Ryan. Well, here's the thing about Matt Ryan. Matt Ryan has unbelievably quick and pliable feet. I mean, Matt Ryan, nobody would confuse Matt Ryan with Aaron Rodgers. But Matt Ryan can move off his spot. And he can get rid of the football in lightning quick fashion with that quick delivery. Okay, so I like a lot of things that Rosen does, but there's some holes in that kid's game. Josh Allen, Wyoming. He's just such a bipolar project / player. I mean, there's times on film he looks like Dan Marino. He honestly looks like Dan Marino throwing the football. And then there's other times where you're just scratching your head at the inaccuracy, at the decision-making. All those things, at the lack of ability to throw a touch. But again, like Darnold, Josh Allen, tremendous athlete. He can move. He's got elite arm strength. And he's been honing his craft over the course of the past month and a half, 2 months with Jordan Palmer. So he's been fine-tuning all these areas that Deshaun Watson fine-tuned himself last year while working with Palmer. So Josh Allen is doing a tremendous job of pushing his player trajectory upward heading into draft season. So he's a guy who's made huge strides in terms of development. But when I think of Allen, I think of a guy that I'm liking more and more and more as the process unfolds. And if I'm a coach, I may take him, I may even trade up into the top 5 to take this kid. I don't have to start him from day one, but he is just more and more enticing as the days and weeks pass by. So we move down, we think of Logan Woodside. The first thing I think about Logan Woodside, Drew Brees-like feet and an accurate thrower of the football with arm strength limitations. He has legitimate arm strength limitations. So the question is going to become, will that impact him? Okay, is that going to have an effect? Because it may not. Because as we've seen, arm strength isn't a huge deal. But if it's going to be a debilitating limitation, maybe it is. So he's just going to have to pass that threshold. But I think of a guy with Drew Brees-like feet, a guy who throws with elite touch, and a guy who will anticipate windows. So Mason Rudolph, what do I think of him? I think of a guy who's a pretty nuanced touch thrower of the football, a guy who played in a pass-happy Mike Gundy spread system, a guy who is fairly technical from a footwork perspective, but lacks that even above average arm strength and is below average athletically and in terms of moving to create space. So Mason Rudolph, a mid-round guy, there's some things to like though about him. Could potentially develop to become a system quarterback at the National Football League level. So, and then Kyle Lauletta of Richmond, another athletic mover who has a pretty compact delivery and is an accurate thrower of the football, generally speaking. Okay, but Lauletta has some concerns about arm strength, and is his release as fluid as it needs to be? Okay, so he's not as fluid of a natural passer as, say, a guy who he's often compared to in Jimmy Garoppolo. So Lauletta, his stock has been steadily rising. And if he gets into the right system, he too could become a developmental guy moving forward. So.